I feel like at some point he's gonna call me a clown. That's his like go-to.
I'll be like, that's me.
135 pounds, 135.1 is official.
It's different levels. You know what I mean? It's definitely different levels when you come.
Jake Paul has built his career on confidence and controversy. But the new videos of Gervonta Tank Davis's bulked-up body seem to have caught him off guard. As clips of a stronger and more muscular Davis went viral, fans began to wonder if Paul had underestimated the lightweight champion's transformation. Known for his power and accuracy, Davis now looks more like a natural welterweight, showing he's not here for fun. He's here to dominate. People close to Paul say he's starting to feel the pressure, realizing that this new version of Tank might be far more dangerous than anyone expected. As the November 14th fight draws near, fans and experts are shocked by Davis's transformation. Known for his explosive power and short frame, the 5 feet 5 inches lightweight has added serious muscle, looking faster, stronger, and more dangerous than ever. The contrast between Davis's new build and Paul's cruiserweight body became obvious at their Miami face-off, where Davis shoved Paul, raising the tension. With his compact but powerful physique, people now wonder if Jake Paul's confidence is starting to fade against a fighter who looks more threatening than ever. Davis has always been respected for his power, speed, and fight intelligence. But his new physical shape takes that to another level. Training photos show him with more muscle, wider shoulders, and a stronger core, yet he's still fast and explosive. This isn't just a show of strength, it's real preparation. Davis is clearly working to dominate, not just compete.
Right? Who's not a professional fighter. What happens? What happens? That's what would sell it. I know the size difference is what creates the problem. The optics, the look, the reality. I mean, you got one guy who's fights at 135 pounds, and you got another guy who fights at 200. I mean, just that alone, yeah. But you also, and I'm not saying I want this or I like this when I heard it. No, I didn't like it, to be honest, for the optics and everything else I just said. But you do have one guy who, yeah, he's smaller, but he's a top fighter, he can punch, and he's fighting a guy who's not a top pro fighter, who's bigger. What if he hits him on the chin?
In a recent interview, a UFC bantamweight champion said Davis is way ahead of Jake Paul in skill and fight IQ. He admitted Paul has physical advantages but said they won't matter against someone like Tank, who's undefeated and known for his knockouts. He also criticized the commission's choice to make it an exhibition match, saying it weakens the fight's competitive edge.
What do you think of him and Tank?
I enjoy these fucking stupid spectacles. I enjoy them. I'm excited for it. The controversy, the press conference, the weigh-ins. Imagine those two stand next to each other. Yeah. Dude, Jake is a big motherfucker. It's basically like you two standing next to each other. Like if you guys stood up, it looks like that. Steiny's a little bit taller than Gervonta.
But I'm a feisty bro. It's not about the size of the dog. It's about the size of the what?
However, Many still see this matchup as more of an entertainment show than a serious boxing contest. The fight has sparked debate about fairness, safety, and the respect for boxing's traditional weight divisions.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skills, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
Experts say most of Jake Paul's fights don't make much sense competitively. They believe they're designed more for views and attention than real boxing credibility. Instead of facing logical opponents within his weight class, Jake keeps picking unusual fights. Too many analysts, that makes his bouts entertaining to watch, but not true test of boxing skill.
Paul won the fight. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire, as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul, was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best.
Jake Paul weighed 199.5 pounds as a cruiserweight, while Gervonta Davis last fought at 133.5 pounds in the lightweight division. That huge difference made the Georgia Boxing Commission reject the fight for safety reasons, forcing organizers to move it to Miami. The new exhibition has a 195-pound limit, and Davis's added muscle shows he's trying to close the gap. Still, Paul's bigger size could affect power and punch resistance. The matchup is all about size versus skill, one of boxing's most unusual face-offs in years.
Those little teeny-weeny dudes. So that's going to be very fun and interesting to watch how that goes down. Now, on the other side, what Jake Paul's going to do. He don't have no consciousness. He doesn't have a conscience about what he's trying to do. He's going to go in there try to hurt a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. He don't care. He wanted to Nate. He's way bigger than Nate Jones when he fought Nate Jones. You think he didn't care about hitting Nate Jones upside the head? He's definitely going to be looking to try to get as much as he can get off on Gervonta Davis and I see him trying to run up on him, trying to maul him, trying to grab him, trying to club him, trying to do all kind of craziness, man. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Now, let me tell you what I really hope, and I haven't seen for this particular card, but I know that I know it's going to be good, which is the undercard. The undercard for the Canelo Alvarez fight and Terrence Crawford fight is absolutely horrendous. There's nothing on the thing that would make you want to watch to tune into that thing 2 seconds before the fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford takes place. There's nothing on that card. So this fight for Gervonta this exhibition for Gervonta and Jake Paul is probably going to have a lot of MVP fighters on there.
Ryan Garcia compared this fight to past controversial boxing events, like Mike Tyson's late exhibitions. Garcia said fans didn't ask for Davis versus Paul either, but boxing often pushes forward with big money fights anyway. He said Davis is much smaller than Paul, making the fight unfair from the start. Still, Garcia admitted that despite fan discomfort, hype and money will always drive these kinds of events.
Bro, that's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like the Mike Tyson, low-key was a disgrace, but we accepted it. But
Yeah.
he was 60 years old. I mean,
Right.
the casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter.
Yeah.
Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, like, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight.
Former world champion Carl Froch didn't hold back, calling the fight a complete joke. Froch revealed that Jake Paul was almost set to face heavyweight star Anthony Joshua, with the deal nearly done. But instead, Paul switched to fighting Davis, a man half his size. Froch found that move ridiculous and said it proves Paul is chasing headlines, not real challenges.
Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been played? Let me know what you think. But the AJ fight with Jake Paul's finished. Gervonta Davis, fake Paul, November. I don't know what's going on in the world of boxing. This is an absolute joke. What next for AJ? We'll get into this, and there's so many questions I want to get into in the next episode. But hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, just thought I'd give you a quick update because the news has just come in and I'm just trying to relax and play a bit of golf and I can't. I've got to get it off my chest. I'm going to add it to this video. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit like, share and subscribe to the best channel in the business, Froch on Fighting, and we'll see you very soon.
Three-division undisputed champion Terrence Crawford has doubts about the Paul versus Davis fight. He views it more like a fancy sparring session than a fair matchup because of the size difference. Crawford admits Davis is explosive and skilled but says Paul's bigger frame could control the fight. If Jake lands one solid shot, the weight and reach difference could change everything.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. They just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Jake Paul has changed boxing on his own terms. By investing his own money into big promotions and flashy storylines, he's turned what many call the gimmick into a global attraction. His money doesn't just fund fights, it grows them, pulling in new fans and massive media attention. Purists might not like it, but it's working. Boxing now has more viewers, bigger paydays, and new excitement. The fact that this fight exists shows how far Paul is willing to push limits and reshape how people see the sport.
Perspective. But again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And we've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight and be like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fighter. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility and they were really starting to work on it.
On the other hand, experts like Wade Plem say Jake Paul has brought new energy to boxing by pulling in fans who normally wouldn't watch. He's especially popular with younger audiences who want entertainment as much as competition, even if controversial. Plem believes Paul's ability to make boxing more popular outweighs concerns about purity. Vargas Jr. agreed, saying the unpredictability of this fight adds excitement. Fans love surprises, and this event delivers exactly that. Whether people see it as good or bad, it's impossible to ignore.
So I think that Misfits brings a different element. Obviously, there's chaos and all of these things, and it's not the most buttoned up and it's not the most high level, but there are moments where you have some really competitive fights. And even with the Jake and Gervonta thing, it's like, is it the best thing for boxing? That's boxing's fault, right? Like, if you're going to complain about it, point the finger the other way because everybody else did it. You guys put yourselves in this position where these kind of fights are more interesting than some of your world title fights. And that's really, really sad, I know, but that's where we're at. And is it Jake's fault for being like, yeah, this is what people want to see, I'm going to do it? Yeah. Is it Gervonta Davis's fault? Maybe a little bit because he's a world champion. Yeah. Give up your belt. To me, it should be give your belt up, right? You're saying to the world you don't want to fight Shakur Stevenson, you don't want to fight Lamont Roach, so give the belt up. That's fine. Go do that. Okay. Say you're done at the highest level. Say you have no interest in being a world champion, and I'm okay with it. Yeah. But outside of that, man, I mean, it's a money fight and it's an exhibition. Everybody, I think, kind of knows what that brings in. So, yeah, I don't really have a problem with it. But at the same time, boxing needs to get its stuff together. So this isn't the most popular thing,
BJ Flores believes the Davis fight is a smart step for Jake Paul's career. He says Paul's body and growing skill fit better at cruiserweight or heavyweight, but facing someone like Tank Davis gives him credibility. Flores argues that Paul isn't just chasing money, he's raising his boxing status. This fight, he says, is a stepping stone that will open doors to bigger, tougher challenges and help Paul build a real boxing career.
That's a funny story. So one of my good friends, Armani, he has been working with Jake Paul for the last 2 years. Oh. There was a little time where Shane wasn't there with Jake, and Armani called me up and said, "Hey, BJ, will you come down to Big Bear and spar with Jake?" And I'm like, "You want me to spar with Jake?" I'm thinking to myself, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, he's beating up all his sparring partners. We come, I was like, all right. I mean, fine, I'll go down there and do it. I have been inactive. I haven't done anything for like 8 months. But I was like, okay, I'll go down there. So we spar a couple times. After that, they decided I was too big for him. And, it's better if we just, not do it. And, then they asked me if I would be interested in like working the mitts with them and helping him with the combinations because I was hitting him with some combinations they hadn't seen before, and I said we can teach him all those things and have him doing all those things, and so I started working the mitts with him and helping him out on the mitts, and he told his trainers and everybody, they're like, man, I want BJ around for the entire camp because I'm getting better. My job is like Shane does the advice in the corner and I do the mitts.
Meanwhile, Jake Paul fired back at critics with a bold stunt, smashing a tank-shaped cake to mock Davis. The act was meant to make headlines and show that Paul controls the story. It was childish to some, but it worked. He used the moment to stay in the spotlight and keep the hype going. Whether people love or hate him, Paul knows how to keep everyone talking. And that's exactly what he wants.